Well, good evening, everyone, and thanks for taking time out of your day, out of your lives, whether you listen to this live or recorded, to spend some time with us. On behalf of your community and the people you serve, thanks for choosing to expand your awareness and expand the possibility of the level of service that you offer the beautiful people that you serve in your communities. I think one of the consistent things, I've been in this profession 27 years, folks, been a professional coach, consultant now for 18, worked with thousands and thousands of entrepreneurs, particularly chiropractors. And the one consistent thing around the world as I speak and teach, every chiropractor I've ever interacted with, even those in animal practice, love to serve. They love to help other living things live a higher quality life. And so let me, on behalf of your community, on behalf of the people you serve, thank you for taking time out of your lives to spend some time with us tonight in this continuation of a series of webinars that me here and the team at Full Circle have put together to help allow you to, again, serve humanity at a higher level. So thanks for taking the time out of being here. My mentor enrolled me many times, many years ago in the concept that, at least 50% of success is just showing up. So those of you that choose to be on the program live, I admire you, and I would like to thank you for taking time. Those of you that couldn't get there for whatever reasons or chose not to be here live, that's fine. We'll not quite the same as a live experience, in my opinion, but hopefully the recording will give you everything that you need. So in case you happen to wander onto the wrong webinar platform, we are talking about systems tonight. We're talking specifically about how to create a reliable and effective intake visit to increase quality lifelong, practice members. And as we want to get into this discussion tonight, I really want to ask you a couple of questions to set the context. My great teacher in communication 25 years ago enrolled me in the idea that the context within which you share information is at least as important as the content. So let's just create the context tonight by asking these a couple of questions, which of course, obviously in a virtual environment, you're going to answer quietly to yourself. But how many of you wish your practice members understood what you understand about chiropractic? That is something I hear again across the world as I teach. Chiropractors wish that their practice members understood what they understand. And I'm going to bet that there's some of you here tonight that wish you were attracting something other than just back pain and headaches to your practice. Certainly in the earlier stages of my practice, I attracted a lot of back pain and neck pain and headaches to my practice, which is fine. It's certainly helping people live a higher quality life with less pain and aches is a very valuable service to offer humanity. But as my practice expanded and my consciousness expanded and my systems, which I want to enroll you in tonight, doing more and better systems, including this intake visit we're going to talk a lot about tonight, that allowed me to serve a broader range of people across the culture. So again, for those of you that don't know me, this is a little graphic of me as a younger man, a very confused young guy. Again, for those of you that have never had the privilege of meeting, my name is Dr. Tom Preston. I've been a practicing chiropractor now for 27 years. Professional coach consultant for 18, and I've worked with thousands of chiropractors from every continent on the planet except Africa. I've yet to work with someone in the continent of Africa. But and I would say this, that as I look back on my career and the growth in my career and my expression as a chiropractor, I can remember graduating in 88, and I had literally, relative to what I understand now, I had no clue about what chiropractic was and certainly how to be a great chiropractor. I was just a pretty high energy guy. My why, I wanted to be of service to humanity, was pretty big, and I just kind of wandered into it. And strangely enough, I was reasonably successful by a standard I never even set. I just was kind of wandering around from day to day. One of the things I wasn't afraid of was hard work. Grew up on a rural farm. I knew what it was like to spend 14 hours on a tractor, get up at 6 a.m. to work with the animals every morning. So, I wasn't a stranger to that. So I just worked really hard. I worked from 8 in the morning to late at night. 5 days a week. I worked part days Saturdays for about 6 or 8 weeks until I ditched that, never looked back on a Saturday ever again. And I grew the practice to be a reasonable success by my standards at the time. I was serving 250, 300 people a week. And it was more dumb luck and charisma and a lot of hard work and hours than anything that I'm going to talk to you tonight that brought me there. So I don't know where you're at in your chiropractic journey. I don't know how long or hard you're working. Chiropractic economics tells us that your average chiropractor in North America works over 50 weeks a year, 50.2 to be exact, which means your average chiro takes about a week and a half off a year. And they work on average 42.5 hours a week in their clinics. So again, I have yet to ever run into a chiropractor that said, you know what, I wish I could work longer and harder and more hours and take less vacations. If anything, a lot of chiropractors that I talk to now in my consulting practice tell me that they wish they didn't have to work as long or as hard, that they could learn to work more efficiently and more effectively. Well, that is really what we're going to talk about tonight. I'm going to share my journey with you. I want to definitely talk to you a little bit about systems themselves and why I'm desperately going to want to enroll you in the concept of systemizing your practice so that you can enjoy more time with your family. You can enjoy more time in your sports, at your church, your synagogue, wherever it is that your hobbies and interests and passions and philosophy takes you. I would love for you to be able to serve still at a high level and deliver a quality service, and yet not necessarily have to work, the crazy hours that I did to do that. So they say the school of hard knocks is the best teacher. I'm definitely going to agree with that. My intention in setting this webinar series up, and literally my entire intention behind my 18-year coach consulting practice, is to help people learn from my school of hard knocks errors, some of the hundreds of thousands of dollars I've invested in business coaches and consultants. Because I don't know about you, but I didn't learn that stuff at Chiro School. They didn't teach it where I went to school. I lecture at Life University regularly, Chiropractic College here in Toronto. And I don't think it's their mandate to actually teach some of those concepts of systemizing a business and practice management and business skills and leadership and team building. And it's just not part of the mandate at chiropractic school. So, and yet it's an important part of running an effective chiropractic practice. So if you're not going to learn it there, where in God's name are you going to learn it? Well, our webinar series is designed to help you get some of that data. And for those of you that are interested and intrigued by actually taking it to a higher level, I'm happy to share with you a few ideas about how to do that towards the end of our time together tonight. One of the mistakes, if I could just create more context before we get into what I want to definitely get into tonight, is this. It's an error in judgment to think, folks, that you can't have your cake and eat it too, that you can't enjoy a great personal life and a great professional life. And certainly I'm one living testament of that. I've got 5 daughters, for those of you that don't know me. And, I built my practice, 27% overhead, great 6-figure net income, taking 10 to 12 weeks of holidays a year. So that was my definition of success. You might want more time off, less time off, work more hours, less hours, make more money, less money. That's actually independent of the point I'm trying to illustrate. The point I'm illustrating is I define success for myself. I got the coaching mentorship that I needed to grow my practice and my ideal and live my life in my ideal. I certainly have had tremendous success over my 18 years as a coach consultant and helping other people do that. And certainly if you look at this little slide here, the acronym for systems, which is really the key and the thing that I learned from my coach advisors and hoping to help you guys get better at tonight relative to intake visit, is, systems save you significant time, energy, and money, right? They've saved a lot of my clients. Certainly there's a phenomenal share here from Dr. Glenn in Alberta, which basically validates the things that I was talking about. You can have your cake and eat it too. You can have a great professional life and a great personal life. It's not like you have to compromise or sacrifice one for the other. So with that reference or that context, let's get into the things we want to talk about tonight. Here are the 6 points and or benefits I think that I want to see you get out of our time together. Number 1 is really just cementing in the value of shifting, systemizing your practice. Okay, I ran on energy and charisma and quite frankly bullshit for years. It's tiring. It wears you down. It grinds you down. And if you're someone that's been doing that, I empathize. I've been there. There is another way. It's called systems. Number 2 point we're going to cover tonight is realizing the benefit of making education in your practice a journey versus a destination. A lot of people stop educating after someone has made it to this point or this point in their practice. I think it's a huge error in judgment. I'll share with you the Betty story tonight, I believe, that will definitely validated that for me. Then we're going to shift right of just talk about the generalities of systems and very specifically the intake visit itself. I've got 4 very key points I want to share with you tonight. One is how to create the right context for an intake visit so there's no one there for the wrong reasons. I then want to shift in and talk to you about what I perceive to be the most important question you can ask your practice members, potential practice members, to literally become an endeared soul to them, to become a problem solver in their life versus a back fixer or a headache fixer or a hemorrhoid fixer or whatever it is that they perceive us to be. When you become a trusted problem solver in their life, and I'll be able to elucidate the difference, I believe, you will see the benefit and they will see the benefit too, trusting your judgment and your skills. Number 5, we're going to talk about increasing the quantity and quality of your referrals by adding just one really simple component to your intake. And finally, we're going to cover what I perceive to be the single most important question to ask to get 99% compliance and conversion at your report of findings. So those are the 6 points. I'm going to run through them basically from A to Z. And again, I want to thank you for taking time out of your lives to join us tonight. So let's jump in and let's have this dialogue. Let's talk about cementing the value of shifting your mindset to systemizing your practice. Those of you that already have 100% systemized practice, you can go on tilt for the next couple of minutes. Those of you that feel like you maybe have a little bit of room for improvement in your systems, please pay attention. I want to point out several really key points. One of the things that this is me actually in a talk I was giving in Dallas a couple of years ago. I'm in my little Superman outfit. And I'll tell you, I'll give you the story behind this. As I said earlier, I grew up on a rural farm. I understood and continue to understand the value of hard work. And there's nothing wrong with hard work. I'm not afraid of it. It helped me get to where I was in life. But I also recognized that it was my default. When I got stressed or I wanted to grow, I just started working longer and harder. It compromised my value systems, particularly my value of family, spending time with my wife and my 5 daughters, as well as the travel and the sports and the hobby and the athletics things that I did. DJ Palmer talked about the rugged individualists that built this profession. Rugged individualists are the charismatic, high-energy people I'm sure that most of you that are watching this are. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. It's not a moral discussion. The consequence to that is that we tend to be such independent little buggers at times, is that we tend to want to try and take on everything ourselves and do everything ourselves. And I'm offering you the reality that I do not contend that that is wise. Because what happens when we're doing that is we tend to carry the weight of the world on our shoulders, and we don't leverage ourselves, and we don't create as much impact as we could. Okay, because I contend we all have really important work to do as entrepreneurs, particularly as chiropractors. And if we're trying to do it all ourselves, it just really limits what we are capable of the amount of lives we're capable of touching and the quality of the work we're doing there. And I'm sure there's some of you listening. So yeah, well, I don't have that syndrome because I already have a staff. Well, how much do you let your staff do? Are your staff doing part of your intake visit? Are they doing any of your reports? Are they doing any of your, my CHA trainer literally did her doctor's reports or healthcare demonstrations in her office for many, many years. Relative to the other people on your team, your bookkeepers, your accountants, I've met chiropractors who are doing their own taxes, for God's sakes. And if that completely inspires you, then by all means, do that. My experience has been, we'll share a slide later called the interconnected purposes slide. It talks about how when we're doing what it is we're meant to do, what we're put here on the planet to do, and only doing that, that's when we get the greatest joy and fulfillment out of life, and when we get our greatest level of productivity. Okay, if you're someone that is suspicious, you may be trying to carry the world on your shoulders and be a person. You got like the cape and the goofy blue tights. I certainly will. I have something at the end that you'd be interested in, which is an opportunity to do a questionnaire I developed to find out whether you're plagued by the superperson, literally, syndrome. Okay, so let's look at the benefits. There's 4 really key benefits to systemizing your business, right? Number 1, you're increasing the likelihood of making the most impact possible with your gifts and talents. Again, I contend the creative intelligence that I call God loved each one of us into existence to fulfill a certain role. I got an accountant that's as dry as Melba toast. I'm not sure I'd want to spend some time having beers with the guy, but I can tell you something. I'm glad he is inspired by accounting. He literally teaches other accountants contract and tax law. That's my kind of guy. I want that guy. I don't want him, answering his own phone. I don't want him doing his own plumbing. I want him to be focused and be the best accountant he could be. So when you are the best chiropractor you can be, because you've systemized your business, you can be completely present time conscious, you're going to increase the likelihood of making the most impact possible on humanity and on your community. You're going to increase, number 2, you're going to increase the ease and efficiency with which you get those results. As I already said earlier, I think most docs are working too long and too hard for the results. Let's increase the ease and efficiency of getting those results. Number 3, I'm intending or hoping that you're planning to be in practice for, a while. So if you increase the longevity with which you could choose to work to get those results, I don't want to see people saying I have to work into my 70s or 80s or 90s. Say people that are choosing to do that because they haven't burned out their bodies, haven't worn out their minds, their emotions, and they're fresh and sharp all the way through. I was talking to a young doc the other day who just started to practice with a doc who's been in practice for 58 years and is still going strong at almost 80. I'm inspired by that, man. That's awesome. I'm guessing or assuming they must talk to this person. They must have some good systems. And finally, the last of the 4 obvious benefits to systemizing your business, you increase that someone else can step into your role and continue to get those same results, which gives you peace of mind for taking time away, right? Those great holidays and recreation time you want to take, and increase the likelihood that you can turn the business over to someone else when you're actually done with practice, something we call succession planning. I contend that succession plan is the ultimate act of no selfishness. It's the opposite of being selfish. Because if what you're doing you believe in and it's valuable to your community, which I know it is, why would you not want that principle, that structure, that that essence, that message that you've created in your practice. Why wouldn't you want that to outlive you? Why wouldn't you want that to live for the next, not just decades, but centuries in your community? When you've got systems, when you've got structure, you can pass the baton and let somebody else carry it and do the great job of serving your community the way that you have. All right? Here's why systems work. They take emotion and discretion out of the equation. You design the system. If you don't like the results you're getting, then change the system. But work the friggin' system. Don't get caught up in emotions. You're having a bad day, so you take this out. You're judging that book by its cover, so they're not going to buy what I'm selling, so let me just do a quickie report or something. No! You take emotion and discretion out of play by working the systems. They also ensure that all of your clients have a similar, if not identical, experience. That breeds trust. If you look at a classic buying cycle in our culture, it's based upon they must know you, they must like you, they must trust you. When Mrs. Jones is talking to Mrs. Smith at the Bridge Club and they're talking about the experience they had in your amazing office, and it's very, very similar, it builds trust. You're doing this one week and you're doing that the next week, and your staff says this to somebody and you say this to somebody else, and it's always different. It's sending out a chaotic, energetic message to the universe, and those people talk. Trust me, the people in your community are talking. Let's make sure that they're saying good things about you and they're saying consistent things about you. Number 3, this is another reason they work. They ensure that you and your team keep your energy constant and stay focused, right? You're like me, you've got your ups and your downs, your highs and your lows, your up days, your down days. If you've got systems, you're minimizing that. You're making it a much gentler sort of, ocean current, if you will. So make sure that you're staying, your clients deserve that. They deserve the best of you. And so systems allow you to give the best on a day-by-day basis. And number 4, they ensure that you don't let the human frailties of fear, procrastination, rejection, and judgment slip into the equation and ruin the chance of helping someone see the value of your service or product for them and their family for the rest of their lives. I learned this firsthand, folks, years ago. I had a person come into my office, and again, I was not wise enough to just take this person face on. I was judging the book by their cover. She looked like a pretty tough girl. She was young. She had multiple piercings. She had tats, lots of ink on her body. She wore a leather jacket. I mean, she was a tough looking girl. And she also, told me during their conversation on intake that she was on, mother's allowance, or what we call welfare. I'm thinking, this woman's broke. She's tough. She's not going to get what I've got to say. And I almost let my judgment of this book by its cover, flavor my report the next day. We were offering the possibility for people to do different types of care plans. One was a year care plan based upon them making that choice, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. And literally, I was going to just, ditch the whole thing, give her a quickie thing. I knew she wasn't going to buy what I had to offer, but I stuck to my system. And I took emotion and discretion out of play, and I just told her the story to the best of my ability. And I get to the end, our care plans at the time, this is like 25 years ago, our care plans at the time were like $2,500 for the year. And she looked at me after I was done. I said, "Do you have any questions?" She says, "I just have one, Doc, and that's, who do I write the check to for the year?" Honest to goodness, you guys, you could have blown me over with a feather. It was like bizarre. I almost blew this opportunity for this person to get the benefit of what we're doing. And I kind of stumbled out, Dr. Tom. And she goes, "You don't remember me, do you?" I said, "Obviously not. I'm sorry. I don't. I'm really good with faces and names, but I don't remember." She goes, "I sat in at a talk that you gave 2.5, 3 years ago at the YMCA Mums and Tots group." She says, "I was so inspired by what you had to say, and I was so excited about getting me and my family's nerve systems checked to see if it would enhance our expression in this life. But I've been saving money aside every month ever since I saw you so that I could afford to come and see you." I tell you, folks, that brought a tear to my eye. Brings a lump to my throat even now. So please, please, please systemize your business. Her son got under care. Her boyfriend got under care. They were still under care when I transitioned out of that practice many years later. Please, for their sake, not just yours, for theirs, systemize your business, folks. Please. Education should be thought through and structured versus helter-skelter and chaotic. It should resonate with your value systems. It should resonate with your philosophy and also your technique, okay? I'm happy to share with you some of the systems. We got a limited time tonight, folks, so I can't give you every piece that we coach and consult on in our intake. I'm going to give you what I perceive to be the 4 biggest and strongest keys. So hopefully it'll help take your practice to the next level and your service and your community to the next level. But again, you really want to be thinking through it. Don't just take my word for it. Don't just take it at face value. Bring it into your philosophy, to your values and your technique. Filter it through. and put your particular essence or spin on it, right? Number two, education should be summative and build from their first contact with you, continue all the way through their experience with you. In other words, from their first phone call right through to the day they leave your practice, hopefully 75 years later, or whatever their life expectancy is. That's the way that education, in my opinion, should be structured. It should be synonymous. It should carry through. People are so inundated with data today, folks, as you well know, right? We're just bombarded by information. And so people need to hear things 11 to 17 times before they actually get it, right? So don't be afraid to repeat concepts and constructs, important ones over and over and over again. And if you're going to stay with us and attend some of our other education webinars we're going to do, you'll certainly hear me weave some of these themes that we're going to talk about tonight all the way through. And the last point I want to illustrate here is that education should never, ever, ever stop. Betty was an older practice member in our office. She's been with us 14 years. I thought she really got chiropractic. I thought she got what we were doing. She's been there for 14 friggin' years. She was coming on average twice a month to get checked. Didn't always get adjusted, but she got checked because she saw the value of a properly functioning nervous system for her health and her life and her expression. Betty didn't show up one day. Staff were nervous. She was older and frail. Maybe she'd fallen and hurt herself. Our systems kicked into play. We contacted her reached out to contact her 3 times. We couldn't get a hold of her. Now we're really worried. The system it came back to me. I called Betty several days later. I got a hold of her. I said, Betty, are you okay? She goes, relatively speaking, yes. She says, except I'm old, Dr. Tom. And I said, I get it. I said, well, when you didn't come in for your adjustment, we were nervous. We thought that maybe something had happened. So would you like me to put you to the front desk, so you can get your appointment rebooked? She goes, oh, no, Dr. Tom, I'm fine. I'm great. So I love you. I love your practice. I love your staff, but I'm done with chiropractic. And again, you could have blown me over with a feather. It was like after 14 years, she stopped seeing the value of the service we were providing on a wellness basis. And when I look back, I failed her. I hadn't done a progress review with her in 2.5 years. I hadn't given her a reason, a novelty, a reason for her to continue to see the benefit of a properly functioning nervous system. I'd stopped educating her. And because we're so inundated with information, folks, as you well know, she gets bombarded by, the other team, if you will, the allopathic team that says that the answer to health lies in pills, potions, and lotions. It certainly does not reside within you in its fullest expression. And so I failed Betty. Please never stop educating. I don't care how long they've been in your practice. They deserve it, and so do you. All right, let's move on to point number 2 here. Realizing the benefit of making education your practice a journey versus a destination. I already referenced this slide earlier. I contend that every living thing on the planet Earth has a purpose, and it has a reason why it exists, and that reason why interconnects with the reason why other things that it interacts with. You can go right into the animal kingdom here and look at salmon who go up streams and moths that go to lights and geese that go south, or you can look at this in terms of the human experience, the 2-legged experience. And I contend that all 7.2 billion or whatever there are of us now today on the planet all have a really specific purpose. And when we're fulfilling our purpose, we are interacting beautifully and synchronistically and harmoniously like the links on a chain. That's why I've got the graphic here with all the other people that we interact with. And by me fulfilling my purpose tonight, which is inspiring authenticity and helping some of you reach a higher level in your practice and your expression, you're going to go out and do that much better of a job tomorrow in your practice. And as a result of that, you're going to touch more lives. You're going to touch them with higher quality. And that's going to allow them to go out, whether they're school teachers or accountants or plumbers, they're going to allow them to go out and fulfill their purpose with more inspiration and with higher clarity and so on. And such is the great interconnected purpose of life, right? So again, when you're doing education as a regular journey, you're seeing it as a way to help these people, perform their purpose at a higher level. And so literally there's 4 benefits here to making education a journey. Number 1, when you create an educational process and system, you take the pressure off yourself to remember to educate. The number of clients I've consulted with that said, oh yeah, we used to do that. Oh yeah, we used to call people after the first visit. Oh yeah, we used to do table talk in a structured way. Oh yeah, well, why don't you do it now? I don't know. They just look at me like deer in the headlights of a car. And so what happens is you're just human. You forget, right? But when you've got a system, an education as a journey, it never stops. And so you've got increased reliability of results and less negative self-talk because these docs tend to beat themselves up, which is not. Number 2, practice members don't feel bombarded or fire hosed. I've said docs go, oh yeah, I got to get back to educating. I gotta, this is Jones, this and this, and I forgot this to report. They just fire hose the crap out of her. Well, I can tell you something, folks. It's way wiser in today's culture to just drip education on a regular, consistent basis, keep telling the story, keep beating the drum, and help ensure people get it. They're more likely to stay, pay, and refer if you've got a consistent process of education. It also keeps you and the team focused and on point at all time. When you're more consistent, I already talked about this earlier, you got better and more consistent results and less ups and downs in your cash flow and your quality and quantity of service. And the final one here, the benefit to education as a journey, in my opinion, is practice members are more likely to be excited about the education because they realize there's always something new and exciting coming out of your mouth or in your whiteboards or in your pamphlets or in your DVDs or your website or whatever it is, right? So you're getting increased results. You're going to help Betty see the value of staying under care after 14 years, even when your human frailty like mine let it slip, and I failed her. I feel directly responsible for that choice that she made. Again, sometimes people just are well educated and they choose not. It doesn't fit their paradigm or belief system. That's fine. I have no problems with that. I walk 25 feet tall on those days that those people leave practice. Where I have a challenge is when I know I didn't serve them at the highest level possible. Making education a journey is really wise. All right, hopefully I've taken the time to create the context for you. We've talked a lot about why you should systemize your practice, the benefits of it. Hopefully you're all hungry to do that. Hopefully you're already doing some of that and you're going to do a better job of it. Let's move on very specifically to the intake visit, all right? And I want to learn how to create the right context for an intake visit so no one's there, for the wrong reason. One of the things used to drive us insane before I understood and valued this system I'm going to share with you is people who would come in and they would, they'd say, get to the end of the intake visit and they'd go, "Hey doc, aren't you going to crack me today?" And it's like, on my worst days, I'm like, "I'll crack you, all right. I'll give you a crack right in the end of the nose," right? But it just drives me crazy. Words have meaning. I don't crack people. I adjust people, right? To release life expression and imprisoned impulse. But again, I understand from their context why they do that. If you integrate this system I'm about to share with you, you'll never have that aggravation ever again in practice, okay? So this is based upon a concept that my friend and mentor, Dr. Guy Riekman, taught me 20-some years ago. It's called management by agreement. The basic concept behind the philosophy of management by agreement is you never do something with another human being until you get an agreement to do it. Most people are running around on really low-level agreements. They're called unspoken agreements. It's called assumptions. You're assuming that people will get it, people will do what you want them to do. You've never got an agreement to do it. At the very least, you need a verbal agreement, and for really important concepts and agreements, I think they should be in writing. So we had literally, one of our systems at Full Circle is that we actually have people do in their, not their questionnaires, sorry, but their office policy, we have people sign it so that we know that it was done properly by the team member that offered it to them and that people actually, heard it and read it and understand it, right? I've been married to my beautiful wife, Shelley, literally 31 years. And, we have a marriage agreement. It's in writing, right? There's no mistakes about that. So again, just the concept of management by agreement, hopefully it resonates with you. It resonated very strong with me when Guy shared it with me earlier. We don't necessarily need to, in our intake visit, get a written agreement, but I do think it's wise to get a verbal agreement about what it is you're going to do. This is literally something that we call the Yes Consultation because you're looking to get 2 yeses, okay? Now here's the benefits to doing a yes, bringing this into your intake visit. Bringing the energy and the philosophy of management by agreement into your intake visit. It removes the quick crack people. I already talked about that. It takes away people looking for emergency room care or other forms of allopathic care because in my value system, my belief system, my philosophy, if they're in that kind of shape, they probably should be at the ER room, right? It's not the kind of people that I wanted to attract into my office, people with like broken bones and cracked bodies and big lacerations and stuff, right? You wouldn't be surprised the stuff that's walked into my office. It also, just as importantly, or arguably more importantly, gives you 99.9% compliance for people showing up to your reports. It's amazing to me the number of chiropractors I talk to who literally, don't have 100% compliance on people going from intake to reports. It just wasn't part of my reality. It's not part of the reality of people we coach. But I guess there's a reason for it. And, one of the reasons, I guess, is, the lack of a system like the Yes Consultation. So what we're looking for, again, folks, is 2 yeses. So I'll just role play it with you, just so you can get a sense of what it might sound like. And again, if you're someone that's listening to this recorded, you may back it up and, pick up the recording again, just to get a sense of a flavor for it, right? So again, this is at the very first in my office. My system was to literally before anything else was done, if they didn't have the forms filled out, even before they filled out the intake forms, the questionnaire, their health questionnaire, and so on, this was done either in my private office or sometimes even out in the reception area. And it was a chance for me to bond the person and tell them what it was we're going to do that day, get an agreement to what we're going to do that day, and get an agreement. That was the first yes. And then get an agreement to do a report of findings afterwards, okay, at a mutually convenient later date, usually the next day or 2 days later. So it would go something like this, folks, okay? Hey, Mrs. Jones, Dr. Tom, really nice to meet you. I understand that Frank sent you in to see us, right? Calmly, obviously get a yes and say, you know what, I really enjoy our time with Frank, and I would love the privilege of serving you at the same level we've served Frank. He's an amazing human being. Any friend of Frank's an instant friend of mine. So one of the things I want to find out, Mrs. Smith, when we meet somebody for the first time in our office is, can we be of service to you? Can we help you? Are you in the right place? Are you in the right office? Right? That seems like a pretty reasonable thing to want to understand, I'm assuming. And of course, commonly people would say, yeah, of course. So if we want to find out whether you qualify, the next question in my mind is, what parameters are we going to use to whether you qualify to be a chiropractic practice member in this office? And for us, the important thing we're looking for today, Mrs. Jones, it's a very weird word. It's called a subluxation. Kind of rhymes with subway station. It's a very strange word. It's unique to the chiropractic lexicon. But a subluxation is an interference between the expression of your inner intelligence, what we call your innate intelligence, and your body as it runs over and through the nerve system. Okay? Our nerve system controls and coordinates the function of every organ, gland, and system in our body. And that communication pathway is running back and forth through our body, using our nerve system as the pathway to connect with, that intelligence that knows how to heal broken bones, whether you're 2 days old or a 50-year-old rocket scientist, that knows how to mend a cut, again, whether you have little or no education. So we're not talking about intellect here, Mrs. Jones. We're talking about an intelligence in the body. My professor at university taught me years ago that Mother Nature, this innate intelligence, needs no help to run the human body. It just needs no interference. And so in this case, we're looking for interference. We're looking for that nerve system interference we call a subluxation. If you're subluxated, Mrs. Jones, I can help you. I can be of service to you. That is likely the biggest part, or at least a part of the cause of your health problem or concern today. So everything we do today, Mrs. Jones, is going to be about finding out whether you're subluxated. All right. So we're going to be doing an intake questionnaire. We're going to be doing some computerized neurological scans. We may or may not be doing some x-rays. We're going to be doing a specific chiropractic exam. Those are the things we're going to do today. Does that sound good to you? Now you're looking for that first yes, that first agreement that that's what you're going to do that day. You've now got an agreement. It's like a binding contract. That's what you're going to do today. Now the second yes goes something like this. And if we can be of service to you and we can help you, you're going to be the second person that knows Mrs. Jones, because I'll be the first. And I would love to be of service to you. I'd love to serve you at the same level I've served your friend Frank. What we will do is I will book a mutually convenient time, hopefully tomorrow or as soon as practical, to go over and report on the findings of our visit today so that you can understand exactly what it's going to take to get the end result that you're looking for. Does that sound good to you, Mrs. Jones? And again, just wait for the yes. It's 2 yeses. Now you have complete agreement and compliance. You have a binding verbal contract to what you're going to do that day. I can tell you again, folks, as I said earlier, it takes out the people that are like, literally, I had 5 or maybe 6 people in my entire career that have, as a result of this system, realized that they were in the wrong office, realized they were somewhere that they, didn't want to be. So literally, I had somebody come in one time and they said, well, I went to the chiropractor about 25 years ago and they didn't do any of that stuff. They just laid me down and poked and cracked me, and I left, and that was all I did. So that's all I'm looking for. I'm saying, great, you know what, that's fine. I just don't provide that level of service here. I'm happy to make a referral to somebody else in our community who may offer that level of service. I just don't offer it here. So you know what, you're probably right. You're probably not in the right place. And I didn't stress me out. I didn't stress them out. I didn't stress my team out. It's just, square peg in a round hole. Because I know that the universe is abundant. I know there's more than enough people who want the kind of service that I offer. I was, with great joy, I referred them to, gave them a few other chiropractors' names that may have delivered that quality of service, and just sent them on their way. So again, management by agreement's the construct. Yes Consultation is the actual tool. All right, let's move on. Let's look at point number 4. I want to share with you what I perceive to be the most important question to ask during your intake visit to become a trusted problem solver in their life. And this is what we call the values match, okay? Because here's the reality, folks, right? You're going to want to burst your balloon, particularly if you paid a couple $100,000 to get your education and you're thinking you were taught everything you need to know to be a good chiro in school, which I promise you, if that's your illusion, you're probably in for some surprises. I know I certainly was after investing that much time and money in my education. My education in chiropractic began the day I graduated, quite frankly. But it's not the back pain, the hemorrhoids, the cancer, the headaches, and so on that brings people in to see us. It's not. They've been trained to believe that that's what it is because they've been trained in a symptom-based model. What really brings them in to see us is what those things that I just mentioned, the cancer, the hemorrhoids, the back pain, neck pain, and headaches, or whatever other symptoms they have, it's what those things are interfering with in their life that they value. That's what's bringing them into our office. How many times have you had somebody say, when you ask them how long the problem's been there, they tell you 5 months or 5 years. Well, if the problem's been there for 5 months or 5 years, why in God's name haven't they gone in to see anybody before now? Because the problem in their eyes wasn't bad enough. What does that mean? It means it didn't interfere with something they value enough to make them prompt them to take action. So again, it's a series of questions. It might go something like this. Mrs. Jones, it's been my experience in all these years of practice that the different symptoms are really just the thing that people think they're coming in for. But what I realized, and particularly you told me earlier that, this problem's been around for about 9 months, is I'm suspicious that there's probably something in your life that you value that you used to be able to do that you can't do as well, or maybe you can't do at all. Is there anything in your life that you value that's meaningful to you that this problem you have, this back pain you have, is interfering with? And then for God's sake, shut up and let them think and let them talk. And you'll find out all kinds of things. You'll talk about how they can't pick up their children or their grandchildren, or they're afraid that they can't work any longer, or they're afraid that they can't work, they can't pay the bills. They can't pay the bills, they're afraid of losing their home. I mean, I had an MD in one time who was, really the bottom line. The reason she came in to see me is because she couldn't make love to her husband anymore. She was in too much pain. And that was a big, important part of the relationship. And she wanted to change that. It's something they value, folks, right? So asking that values match question and then helping them connect, that's why you're going to help them. Like, Mrs. Jones, you know what? I know picking up your grandchildren is important to you, and I'm excited to help you get back to that important part of your life. So let's go through this process today. Let's understand if we can be of service to you, and let's get you back to playing with and interacting with your grandchildren, because I know that's something that's important to you, something you love. You now become a problem solver in their life, something they value, something that's important to them. Otherwise, you just become a back fixer or a subluxation remover or any other thing. Not that those aren't valuable things. I'm not judging them, folks. I'm observing in my experience that if you do something that links to someone's values, whatever that might be to them, and you help them see how it's going to improve the quality of their life, now you've really become, again, a trusted confidant in their life and someone that they're going to value for a long, long time. All right. That's the values match piece of the puzzle here, the graphic that I wanted to share with you. All right, let's talk about point number 5 as we move through this and get towards the close. I want to share with you something that I perceive to be a very simple question to ask that will increase the quality and quantity of your referrals by adding, this simple question. Okay, as again, when we are trained at university, all of the universities, all of the chiropractic colleges, we're taught usually to do a present history. The mnemonic we used when I was in school was Dr. Ficaro, duration, radiation, frequency, intensity, character, aggravating, relieving, symptoms or aspects, the associated and lifestyle related things. I mean, there's always, every school has a mnemonic for doing a present history. And it's an important piece. By law, we have to do that. And I think it's an important part of being a good diagnostician, being a good chiropractor. But the part that most docs forget is they forget to talk about the past history. Right? And I would offer that it's the past history that's really the clue, and give you better clues than the present history about the process of dis-ease that brought them into our offices in the first place. This is the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back, right? I literally had a lady in tonight. I run a very part-time hands-on practice. I'm a full-time coach consulting now. A lady came in tonight who I've been adjusting, and she was very subluxated. She was in a lot of discomfort. Her low back was all locked up. And literally, she'd been progressing beautifully under care. So I was, very, questioning what it was that brought her here. And she goes, I was just in my daughter's room, and I was just like moving, just like pushing this trunk. I wasn't even lifting it. And I said, have you ever done that before? And she goes, well, of course, hundreds of times. I vacuum there all the time. I said, why didn't it happen other times then? Well, I don't know. I must have pushed wrong. I said, really? Do you believe that? She goes, no, I don't. She goes, what the hell's going on, doc? And so here's what's going on with her. We know that it's chemical, physical, and mental and emotional stressors that tank the nerve system, that build the stuck energy, which I call subluxation, and that literally leads to, you know, the subluxation pattern that creates the symptoms. And so what's going on for her? She's got a tremendous amount of mental, emotional stress in her life. She hasn't got a full-time contract in her teaching thing. She might be working with these severely handicapped children in her school, and she has got mental, emotional stress up to here. Well, when you've got that much mental, emotional stress up to here, it doesn't take a whole lot of like pushing or lifting in the physical plane to do that. Most people have been conditioned in our culture to think that it's all about the physical plane. My God, D.D. Palmer was very clear in his writings over 100 years ago that we're looking at 3 components that the nerve system is interacting with on a regular basis, both internally and externally. We're looking at, again, biochemical, physical stressors, and mental, emotional stressors. And so when we're looking at the straw that broke the camel's back, right, we're literally looking at those different stressors building up. Well, again, if you're looking at some of the research from Taubman from in the late 1960s, for heaven's sakes, he was showing that the first subluxations commonly occur at childbirth. 88% of our culture was subluxated from birth. Certainly you follow, if you've got children, like I told you guys, I have 5. I mean, they fall all the time on their butts, right? While they're learning to walk. Thank God they're pretty plastic. They absorb most of the stresses. I think it would be illogical to think they get through childhood without being, you know, interacting with those stressors and getting subluxated. So if we're not asking the questions about their past history, how do we know what the process has been that brought them there? A great analogy, folks, is that, you know, you don't wake up one day with diabetes, type 2 diabetes. You don't wake up one day with your arteries, you know, closed. You don't wake up one day with cancer. These are processes of dis-ease that develop over time. My oncologist buddies tell me, on average, it takes 12 to 14 years before anybody actually feels the symptoms of the cancer tumors that have been growing in their body. I believe, and the Mayo Clinic, literally in the last 10 years, has come out to offer their wisdom on this. They agree with me, or I guess I agree with them, depends which way you look at it, that most people have cancer several times in their life, but their body recognizes it as abnormal. Their immune system fights it off, and away we go, right? On with our lives. So the point I'm illustrating, folks, is this. When you're asking about the process of dis-ease in their life that may have brought them to this stage, it makes a lot more sense why they looked in their blind spot and, oh, their body froze up, or they shifted a trunk, or they lifted a 2-pound box off their desk. That's not what did it. That's the last straw that perpetually breaks the camel's back, that pushes the subluxation pattern over the top, locks up the system, and the biology goes, hey, I need you to be aware that your system isn't working right. First basic tenet of biology is survival of the species. You keep loading on the stressors, you're going to kill me. I'm not going to let it happen without a fight. Here's the alarm bell. Here's the symptoms. I mean, it's a process that develops over time, right? So again, in terms of language, let me just, you know, run over this with you in terms of how it might go, okay? And again, I'm taking some of these pieces out of context, out of the bigger picture of what we do and what we share. But again, I wanted to give you something of real tangible value tonight so that you can integrate it into your practice tomorrow if you choose, right? So again, once you've done your present history and you're looking at their past history, hopefully your forms are asking about their childbirth. Hopefully they're asking about their early childhood. It's asking about the mental, emotional, as well as the chemical causes. And let's face it, Doc, most of you aren't comfortable talking to people about biochemical and mental, emotional causes of subluxation. You know what? All I can say to you is, you know, you're bad. Get educated. Do more of the research. Take Chris Kent's advanced subluxation training course, if you will. Just understand the science and the research behind the different causes of subluxation. So as you're asking these different questions about, so Mrs. Jones, I see here from your past history that you had a pretty bad fall when you were 2. You went down the cement steps at the front of your house on a trike. It's like, wow, that must have been a pretty significant impact to your body. Would your mom ever tell you what happened? What did you do? Did you go and see a chiropractor? Did you have your nerve system checked? And of course, commonly the answer is no. I said, oh man, that's too bad. What about here when you were 7 and you fell out of a tree and broke your arm? That was a huge insult, a massive impact to your body. Tell me what happened then. Oh, they went to emerge and had their arm set or whatever. I said, well, did you get your nerve system checked for the concussionate forces that would have been stored in your body as a result of that fall? No, Doc. Okay. Well, what about here when you were 17 and the love of your life broke your heart? Was that pretty stressful? Ooh, that was amazingly stressful. Well, did you get your nerve system checked then for function? No. You're in a car wreck and you're 25. You lost a job when you were 32. And so on, going through their history, folks, right? Eventually, people either ask me, Doc, why are you asking me all these questions? What's that got to do with my sore back, neck, cancer, hemorrhoids? Or I will even say to them, so Mrs. Jones, I'm going to bet you're wondering why I'm asking all these questions about your past health history. Well, the reason I'm doing that is because it's a common understanding in science today that most of the dis-ease processes that develop in life develop slowly over a period of time. And certainly that's been my experience in 27 years as a chiropractor. Sadly, right now, as an example, Mrs. Jones, there's no mechanism in our body to tell you or I whether the arteries to our heart are 100% open, 80% open, or 60% open. The first warning sign we get of occlusion of the arteries is a heart attack, of which in North America today, 40% of North Americans don't live through the first warning sign, which is a heart attack, right? It's a hell of a warning sign, Mrs. Jones. So if there was a way and a mechanism that I could see how my arteries were, slowly closing over time, regardless of whether they hurt or not, I'd want to know about that. It's like the arteries start to close layer by layer. It's like the way an onion grows. It grows layer by layer. The way a tree grows, Mrs. Jones, it grows ring by ring by ring. And again, at this point, based upon your history, it looks to me like the cause of your problem actually has its roots many years ago. It's not just to do with the looking at your blind spot, the checking, the slip in the shower, or the little jar of shoveling snow, or whatever other symptom that they say brought them in to see us. What it does at the very least, folks, is it plants a seed of doubt in their mind about the length of time the process has been there. So when you're offering them solutions, they're open to the possibility that this is a process that took more time to get here than just the little thing that they did yesterday or so on, which is truthful, as well as giving them the opportunity to make choices in care besides just what I call Band-Aid care, which we're going to go into next. Okay. So the other thing it does too, folks, is it massively opens a referral network relative to the people that they might refer in. Let's face it, in North America or in the world today, most chiropractors talk about the physical causes of subluxation. And so most people have been taught to believe that the only time you see your chiro is after a slip, a twist, a fall, or a bad lift, right? Well, what if we open up the possibility and we're talking about mental, emotional, and chemical stress? I had a person not that long ago who was talking to me as I did this system with them. And they said, you know what, my boss is really stressed out. Do you think they should be in to get their nerve system checked? Yeah, maybe they should. Why don't we set up an opportunity and get them an appointment to get them checked, right? And this will open up possibilities to have people coming in without just all of the traditional aches and pains and so on, because you're educating people about the true reality of nerve system function and the causes of subluxation. All right, let's move on to the final point that I want to make about intake visit tonight. And again, my humblest apologies, folks. I can't possibly go through, all of the different aspects of what we actually teach in our systems, but I wanted to give you what I perceive to be the 4 biggest ones tonight. Again, I'm happy to spend a couple of minutes at the end to talk to you. If those of you would like to, do some more work in this area, or would like to consider taking this to another level, I'm happy to share with you a couple of ways you can do that once we get done this last point. So number 6, the single most important question to get 99% compliance. Of course, I never say 100 because that seems impractical to me. But 99% compliance conversion at your report of findings. And this is actually something that I learned many years ago from a dear friend of mine, Dr. Tony. And it's something I've been using in my practice ever since. And it's really a really simple question. And the question is just, Mrs. Jones, what are your expectations of me as your chiropractor? It's done right at the end of the intake visit. It's the last thing you say to them before you send them on their way. And so, again, it's framed something like this. Mrs. Jones, I tend to interact with 3 different types of people, because when I ask people, let me give you a frame of reference here, folks. When I ask people, what are your expectations of me as your chiropractor? I get some variation of deer in the headlights of a car, right? And they usually, wind around. Some people wind around this and that. Well, I want to get feeling better. Well, I don't want to hurt. I want to do this and that. And regardless of, what they're offering to you, you want to give them a frame of context upon which to answer the question. So it goes something like this in my systems. Mrs. Jones, I tend to find that there's 3 different types of people that we interact with here in our office. The first type of people that come and see us are really just want to get patched up and put back in the game. They're not looking for problem to get, corrected. They just want to get feeling a little bit better. Again, patched up, put back in the game, coach, let me keep playing. They don't want to do it with drugs and that sort of more allopathic approach, or else they'd be in the ER room. So they're looking for a more natural way to do it. But again, they're not looking for the problem to be corrected. They just want to get feeling a little bit better and get put back in the game. In our office, that takes about 6 to 8 weeks of care. The second group of people we interact with are people who realize that, how you feel on a moment by moment basis isn't a really good indicator of how healthy you are. They really don't just want to get, patched up or put back in the game so the Band-Aid falls off and they're right back here a month later with the same problem, just in a different presentation. They really want to get the problem professionally corrected. They trust our judgment. They trust our advice. They understand the journey it took to get them to this stage, and they're willing to take the steps to regain their health to its highest level. For those people in our office, it takes obviously a little longer. In our office, it usually takes somewhere between 9 and 18 months. The third group of people we interact with, Mrs. Jones, are people who are very preventative and proactive with their health. They're working on their relationships even though their spouse hasn't sent the divorce papers. They're drinking clean and fresh water even though they feel great. They're brushing their teeth even though their teeth don't hurt. They're working out and exercise as a regular part of life, not just because it's January 2nd. Okay, and those are people who see a properly functioning nervous system as an important part of their health plan, and as a result of that, they're people who use chiropractic basically for the rest of their lives. So, just from where you stand today, Mrs. Jones, which category do you see yourself in? And then just shut up and let them answer, because what you're really asking them, folks, is what paradigm of health do they live in? And again, I had some clients of mine who wouldn't see people for what I would call Band-Aid care. That's fine if that's your choice. I chose to do it. A really important part of this system is to give people the time frame. I'm going to bet there's some of you listening to this and are going, 9 to 18 months, what the hell? Don't you know what you're doing? And there's other people who are going, how the hell do you think you can get to correction in 9 to 18 months? That's irrelevant, folks, right? It's about your philosophy and your technique deciding what it takes to get that level of care. But if you don't give them a time frame, they don't know what it is that they're committing to. They might think that the difference between Band-Aid care and corrective care is the difference between 1 visit and 2 visits, which maybe in your technique and philosophy it is, it wasn't in mine. And so again, giving them that frame of reference and then asking them, to make a decision. I've never had anybody who balked at this. We tracked it in our office. 85% of people that I attract into my office chose type 2 care. They asked me to create a 9 to 18 month care plan before they left my office on my first visit. That's phenomenal, folks, right? We had about 5 to 7% who chose crisis care, and we had about 8 to 10% who chose wellness care. So literally on their intake visit, they're saying, I'm that kind of person. I see myself as that person who looks after my relationships, looks after my health, brushes my teeth when they don't hurt. I could see possibly making chiropractic a part of my health plan. And so again, by that frame of reference, you've got people now excited to come back, and you've got permission to set up a care plan in your report that honors their choice. To not do that, to go in with just a 4 or 5 week care plan when they asked you and gave you permission to make a 9 to 18 month care plan, in my opinion, that's bad service. You're not serving those people optimally. Quite frankly, trying to sell somebody something they don't want, trying to sell them a longer term care plan, when really all they want is Band-Aid care, again, in my opinion, you're selling yourself short and you're selling them short, and you're likely turning them off of care forever. So again, some systems and opportunities to really take your intake visit to its highest level. For those of you that are just looking for some good content, now's the time to check out and leave. What I wanted to do for those of you that might be interested in learning more about how to take this further, I got a couple of opportunities here I'd love to share with you in the next 4 or 5 minutes. Number one is Superman syndrome. If you saw yourself when I talked about Superman syndrome as maybe one of those rugged individualists who's carrying on and taking on too much, not delegating enough, not really that inspired, you're feeling a bit burnt out or bored in your practice, you definitely want to do this questionnaire. And so all you got to do is email admin, ADMIN, at drtompreston.com, and they'll happily send you that exercise. It's a simple, short quiz. It takes like maybe 5 or 7 minutes. Once you've done the quiz, if you'd like to review it with me or one of my authenticity coaches to go over the findings and to give you some tips and strategies for how to, the kryptonite, if you will, to get you out of that syndrome, we'd be happy to do that. We believe that a rising tide raises all ships. And so by sharing with you some of our experience and expertise and helping you live a higher quality life, it's indirectly going to help all of us. So again, if you'd like to do that once you've done the questionnaire, you can do that. Just go to the website, drtompreston.com/call, and you'll be able to book a call, a complimentary, free, no charge, folks, right? Just a chance to kick the tires and learn something more about yourself and learn how to possibly take your life and your practice to the next level. For those of you that like to really immerse yourself in systems, you see that as a weakness in your expression right now, We're doing a live program in the end of September here in Mississauga, Ontario. For those of you from the US or the Ukraine, it's just outside of Toronto. It's really close. It's like walking distance to the international airport. Well, maybe not walking distance. It's maybe a little farther than that, but it's very close, right? September 26, 27 in Mississauga. And again, this is going to be done at my dear friend, Dr. Peter Amlinger's private chiropractic office. We only can take 18 people because it's literally being done in a chiropractic office. I didn't want to do this in a hotel room, folks, right? I wanted this to be done in a real office, so you're getting the feel, the vibe, and so on of an office and how to work these systems. It's not going to be so much me being a talking head. We'll be talking about some of the important points like we did in the webinar tonight. And then literally you're going to just, roll up your sleeves and you're going to get to work, and you're going to work at taking your intake visit, your report of findings, your table talk, all of the important education systems, and you're going to work on making them better, and then you're going to role play them. My experience with 18 years coach consulting training now is to get people talking about it, get them doing it, just like I did tonight. Just role play it with the person beside you, with one of the other people there. Role play it in front of the group if you're brave enough, right? And get some constructive feedback from the coaches, and self-included, who are going to be there. And really just refine and make your systems better and more authentic. We're going to be talking about some of the principles of communication at the start of our program together, how to be a better communicator, what some of the key points are to being a great communicator, both in terms of one-on-one communication and group communication. We're going to also be talking about another really important chiropractic system called marketing. And it's going to be a phenomenal time. Because it's done in my friend Pete's office, we can only literally take 18 people. The investment is $377 Canadian dollars. For those of you in the US, that's about $50 with the way the US exchanges these days. Any associate or secondary docs, it's $277. If you're someone that's sat through this webinar, you've already got a leg up. I figure you've already got a head start. If you go to our website and sign up for this, it's literally a really, really simple URL. Let me just give it to you here. It's drtompreston.com/systems-seminar. drtompreston.com/systems-seminar. You can get more of the data that I just shared with you there. And literally at the checkout, if you're someone that would like to invest the time to do that for the 2-day program, all you got to do is put in the coupon code webinar at checkout, and you're going to save yourself. So if you're someone that likes to save money, I like to save money. You're someone that would like to take your systems, you're ready to go to the next level. This is, to me, the most effective way to do that. All right, let's close this webinar tonight, folks, by just talking about education. I really contend that in chiropractic today, that education is the key. It's the key. It's the difference between a good office and a great office. And again, in my worldview, we've got a really important job to do as chiropractors. We provide a phenomenal service to the culture, to communities, about expressing themselves more fully, being more healthy, being more whole, both in terms of mind and body and in spirit. And so I see the role you play in today's culture to be unbelievably important. And we want you to enjoy your life. We don't want you to burn out. We don't want you to bore out of your practice. We want you to enjoy your family. We want you to have your cake and eat it too, like the story I told of Dr. Glenn earlier. And so we want you to be in practice for as long as you choose to be in practice. Systems help you do that. Education in your systems helps you do that. Please, if you remember nothing else tonight, systems save you significant time, energy, and money. The intake visit, in my opinion, is the cornerstone. It's the key to all the other education systems in your practice. It sets the tone and the context for your philosophy, for your technique, and what you want to do. I hope that I've been of some value to you tonight in talking about intake visit. It's four of the most important keys in our systems that we teach here at Full Circle. If you'd love to chat with us about our systems and how to build more systems, you're not the kind of person that wants to fly from wherever you live in the world to Toronto to do our systems program, you'd like to talk to us about being coached through some systems, we'd be happy to have the dialogue. Reach out to me privately at Dr. Tom, that's Dr. Tom, at drtompreston.com. I'd love to have a conversation with you to see if we could be of service to you and to your communities and being more efficient and effective in your expression as a chiropractor. Remember that what you do, folks, is impacting lives in a phenomenal way. Thank you for being you. And on behalf of your community, thanks for taking the time out of your lives to watch this webinar or be with us tonight. Wherever you are in the world, folks, enjoy your evening. And I look forward to chatting with you again at some point in the future. God bless everyone and take care.